Welcome back to Make It Mondays. And this time I'm working on a new commission, and that commission is going to be made out of this fuzzy purple yarn, but it's going to be Halloween themed. So let me get everything flipped around and I'll show you how I get started. So I'm going to be working with double pointed needles, and I'm actually making a witch's hat. So I'm starting from the tip and working down towards the brim. So I've got my slip knot on the double pointed needle now. I'm going to cast on, and I do cable cast on 2 more. So it means I'm inserting, knitting, and then putting the loop back on the first needle. Knitting, stitch, putting it back on the needle. Now I need to start back over on this first side, but I don't want to work it quite like an I-cord. So I'm going to split the stitches 2 on each side. Make sure the tail is going down on the outside, and make sure that my working yarn is coming up on the inside. Knit 1, 2. Three, 4. So this is the first time I'm working with this kind of yarn where it's already an I-cord that was made into a tube. And we will see how this works up and how much I actually like it. So I am going to do a 3rd row. So I count my cast on row as row 1. So 3rd row with just the 4 stitches, and now we're going to increase 4 times. So knit 1, pick up a stitch, knit into it, knit 1, pick up a stitch, knit into it, and do that again on the other 2 stitches. That's kind of how this is going to work all the way down. The next step for the next increase is going to be to separate this out into 4 needles rather than 2. And then when I have enough stitches, I will come back and show you how I get it onto circular needles. So I will be back in a little bit to show you the first transition. So here I am most of the way down the witch's hat. I do have several more increases to go, but at this point it's too big for my double points, so it's time to move it on to circulars. And I've done this before, but all it is literally knitting straight onto the circular rather than using the 5th double pointed needle in my case. So I'm going to do this all the way around, and when I get to the end of the round, the stitch marker that I've been using to mark beginning of round will actually go up on the needles, so it actually will stay with the row I'm on rather than me having to look down. So that was the end of the first needle. So this yarn has worked up relatively well, not super weird in any way. I just realized I need to back up a couple stitches because I forgot a step. So that's literally how I do it. I pinch the fabric, pull the yarn back to where I need to go, and pick it back up, assuming I don't need to really worry about the directionality. So I am going to do the increase, which I'm picking up the left leg of the stitch below and knitting into it, and then working across this needle, doing the same thing on the next one. So I was at believe 16 stitches per needle, and I will be going out to 22 stitches per section. So I do have a couple more increases to go. And then the brim will be just continuously knit from here, but I will get to that in a bit. But the idea is much the same. But hopefully I will remember to turn the camera on when I get to that point. So I will say this yarn does stick a little bit on occasion, but it's not bad. It's just something to be aware of. And that's always something I have to wonder the first time I'm working with a yarn is how is it going to behave to the needles that I use and the technique that I'm doing. How does it frog? Though hopefully frogging is not always a part of a project, but it often is. I'm almost to the end of the round. And pick up that last stitch that I need to increase. And it's just big enough. Then unhook the stitch marker and put it on. So again, I'm going to be going for several more increases. I'll see how tall the hat is at that point and see if I need to do extra rounds in the body of the hat. So I'll be back in a bit and we'll see what happened. So I did forget to come back and turn on the camera. Oops. So let me explain where I've gone. The increases came to here. And then I did 24 rows of straight stockinette. So because this isn't a round, that's just knit. And then we came out to what is the brim. And instead of increasing 4 times around, it became increasing 8. And then I've done a little bit of stockinette to go over the wire that's going to be in the brim. Now it's time to decrease for the underside of the brim so that it's not the purl side of stockinette. So I'm going to knit over to the next decrease. And then I'm going to, this is a left leaning decrease or an SSK. I don't have to do anything special because my stitches are messed up. And then I'm going to go all the way around to the next decrease. And again, that's going to be around 8 times. Or sorry, 8 times per round every other round. I'm going to be back to show how I'm going to get the wire in there, along with how the underside of the brim is going to connect back to the start of the brim. So be back in a little bit. So here I am sewing the brim in. So I'm going to show you the underside of the brim. So this is an extra row of acrylic yarn, not the same fuzzy yarn, but a different purple to get the wire into the actual brim to make it all stiff. And then I've been doing, it's almost Kitchener stitch, but not quite, to sew this edge to the hat band. So I'm inserting my darning needle into the last stitch that's off the needle, then through the back of the stitch on the needle. Then I'm going up to the brim, going through the U's of the purl bumps, and then following the stitch and going through the next U over. And that way I'm creating this, well, not invisible seam, at least fluid seam all the way around. I'm going to keep going all the way around. There are some more steps that are going to happen to this. I don't know how many of them are going to be done before I show the reveal. But I will be back in just a bit to show you how everything turned out. So here is the final hat from the back and then from the front. So it's getting shipped off to its new owner. And if you made it this far in the video, please consider liking and subscribing so the algorithm lets you know when more of these videos come up. It helps you and it helps me. And I will see you next time on Make It Mondays. Bye.